Good morning, folks, and welcome to this week's PFL podcast. I'm Curtis Chandler, and we have a lot to report on this week. Trans Mountain got the green light on an expansion up in Canada. Meanwhile, Alberta wildfires are creeping towards the oil sands, and RINs continue to grind higher. Trump put nearly $700 million behind coal last week, and CPKC signaled workers walked off the job on Sunday of last week and are continuing to strike. Markets first. The Dow closed Friday of last week down 695 points or 1.53%, which was down 165.68 points week over week. See PFL's rail report for all closing indices. In overnight trading, Dow futures traded lower and are expected to open down 66 points from Friday's close. WTI closed on Friday of last week down $2.50 per barrel, closing at $90.54 per barrel, but was up $2.85 per barrel week over week. WTI is poised to open up $4.34 per barrel from Friday's close. U.S. commercial crude stocks fell by 8 million barrels week over week and are 3% below the 5-year average for this time of year. Crude exports jumped by 1.43 million barrels per day to 5.9 million barrels per day as imports climbed. Propane built another 2.1 million barrels and are 39% above the average for this time of year. North American rig count was up 8 rigs week over week. U.S. rig count was up 1 rig week over week, and Canada was up 7 rigs week over week to 169 active rigs. Year over year, North American rig count is up 59 rigs year over year collectively. International rig count, which is reported monthly, was down by 3 rigs week over week and down by 25 rigs year over year. Internationally, there are 1,046 active rigs drilling out there. Total North American weekly rail volumes were up 6.77% in week 23 year over year. 10 of AAR's 11 major traffic categories posted gains. Grain led the way, up by 27.3%, and coal was a sole decliner, down by 0.81%. Now to what we are watching out there for you folks. Starting with Trans Mountain, the Canadian Energy Regulator approved the drag reducing agent project on Thursday of last week, clearing a roughly 10% throughput increase of approximately 90,000 barrels per day on top of the existing 890,000 barrels per day of existing capacity. Construction starts in August and barrels will flow by January of 2027. Apportionment is a problem in Canada right now. Trans Mountain apportioned June nominations for the first time since the expansion came online, and Enbridge restricted 19% of its heavy crude on its main line in June on top of it. Both major egress lines out of Alberta are at the wall, and the DRA barrels don't come online. On the flip side, there are wildfires threatening Alberta's production again. Please see PFL's rail report for further details. RINs continue to grind higher. D6 ethanol RINs closed at $2.33 on Friday of last week, and D4 based biodiesel credits closed at $2.39 per RIN. Both vintages are up roughly $1.33 per RIN from December, affecting gasoline prices, of course. The EPA Set 2 rule and 45Z domestic production tilt and continued exports to Europe are pulling RINs to move even higher. It's a perfect storm and not good for gasoline prices that are already traded at heightened levels due to the conflict in Iran. For tank cars, that means more ethanol, unit car trains, more biodiesel manifest moves, and more SAF rail to coastal terminals. See today's report for full details. There was a big move towards coal last week. President Trump committed nearly $700 million, invoking the Defense Production Act to fund 13 existing plants, 2 new builds, and the Gateway Export Terminal at the Port of Oakland. He's moving that one forward. See today's report for all the details on that one. Closing out the watch list, Union Pacific CEO Jim Vena told CNBC last week that UP does not need federal money to close the NS deal after President Trump floated owning potentially 15% of it. The SDP has held the application in abeyance under a 201 rule. Well, that is your podcast for this week. If you need storage, leasing, subleasing, car cleaning, repair, flaring, scrapping, nitrogen generation, or transloading services, PFL has you covered. Please share this podcast with a colleague who may find it useful. Have a great, safe week. Thanks for listening, and please be safe out there, and please read today's report. There's a lot of goodies in there.